team and sits at even. So obviously canceled out a great round yesterday. Yesterday's starters have yet to start, but Clark is also at 8 under, and another ace on 15. This one to Fitzpatrick.
That course is not, like, I think guys are chewing it up, correct? Like, which isn't good.
Dialed in.
Is the winning score going to be like -22 type of thing? Like,
well, it's on pace for that.
Yeah.
But okay. So here's the question: are you looking for guys to struggle? Like, does that excite you?
That's an Open.
I know. Well, that's historically the U.S. Open. It's MO, but
I don't know.
Is that what the people want?
I don't know. How did you feel the other day watching the playoff round and watching Tommy Fleetwood wire one into the grandstand? Like, I kept thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like that's
last week, yeah,
that's theater.
Yeah.
And then the best part is, I don't even know if we talked about it. The people that it hit or dropped at their feet, they were picking the ball up, taking selfies with it, put it back down, and then when...
Well, he's got to take a drop anyway.
I know, but when
he played innocent.
Fleetwood and his caddy came up and were talking to him, and it's like, what do you want us to do with that? We didn't want to touch the ball. Even the announcers are like, we're just taking selfies with it. They were lying. Like, it was awesome. They were 100 beers deep, and have it.
Was it Tony Romo who was playing in that Pro-Am and he hit one off the bleachers?
Yeah.
And he stuffed it to like a foot up and down from the top deck.
But see, like, I don't mind where it's kind of all over the map. That adds to the theater. Like, you know.
Look at that playoff, the 4 holes.
The
Absolutely.
playoff was great, but it just... So if the course is playing a little bit easier than we thought it was, I don't know. Does it add more drama? I'd rather see a guy all over the map and find his way into a beautiful shot.
Well, but you have 3 guys at -8, and the other 2 of them set the record yesterday. That's kind of dramatic, isn't it?
It is, but that
in a different way.
Our point that, you know, if they might get to -30 on that pace.
-8 in one round. Like, just to put that in perspective,
Okay.
it's just like I'm a good golfer.
Yeah.
Okay, I've played a lot of golf. I'm a scratch.
Okay.
And I'm happy if I make 8 birdies in July.
Wow.
Like, these guys are making 8 birdies shooting 62.
Insane.
Like, it's crazy.
But that's it. Either sports
in these conditions.
Well, that's what they're that good of golfers, but also, is the course just too forgiving? Is it just too easy? Is the wrong word, but is it just, has the weather like not hardened the course?
Maybe.
Like, that's what, you know, it's got to be concerning, because I guess the U.S. Open, they're fine with it, but we'll see who wins on Sunday for the big bucks and who, you know, soils themselves. There's always somebody who has a rough one down the stretch on a Sunday where, you know.
The final round skid mark. Bad stuff. Bad stuff.
I'm pretty sure DJ took a quadruple bogey today.
Wow.
So they're like, it's out there.
Oh, yeah, but we're just conditioned because the U.S. Open over the years, certainly the last 15, has been played on tracks. You're watching and you're wondering what the heck you're watching. It's like a demolition derby. The rough's ridiculous, the greens are too fast, or it's just a ridiculous course. And this is the complete opposite. The contrast is too much.
Well, I'm fine with it, because even laying there last night at 10 o'clock, like, it was sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
It was on.
Yeah, I like
all right,
that.
there's no problem. There was nothing else on. I'm watching it. I'm like, this is great.
West Coast majors are good.
Yeah, I don't mind that. So,
well, if I take a page out of my brother-in-law's book, I think he's on your side, Noodles, where he like wants to see these guys struggle. He's like, let's see a leader at 82 in the first round.
Like, you just, you know, you don't need to see the block party or anything like fall right off and struggle and tin cup it. But it just, I want to see a little bit of drama that way, where it's like, okay, pressure's on and the guy has to 3-putt it just to kind of keep it rolling. And that, the extra holes the other day was unbelievable. Like, that was as good a drama, and I felt like the whole country was watching.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
And then how long was the putt that he buried?
72 feet. 72 feet 6 inches. Like, they
longest
had it,
putt of his career.
Yes, his career, and they were saying, like, people will now just refer to that as the putt. Like, that's it, the putt in Canada. So unbelievable.
Okay, so we have to really segue hard into hockey. We're going to deal with the Leafs assistant coach search, but this sort of derails it. So Oliver Ekman-Larsson bought out. This is the opening of the buyout window, and this just happened. Bought out by the Canucks, and this is like a $20.5 million stipend to get out.
Well, it's a huge one. I think he had 3 years left at north of 7.
He had 4 years left north of 8.
Well, yeah, but I believe Arizona was chewing a little bit of that money.
Oh, they assumed it on the deal.
So Arizona's going to be in on that buyout, but Vancouver, just to make him go away, that's a big hit.
Oh, and a long term.
And
they're going to pay him over $20 million to play against him. Well, he's going to get another deal.
We were talking off air before we came on, talking about buyouts. And I remember I had a buddy who got bought out, and the buyout was $800,000. He said, like, let me get this straight. You're going to give me $800,000 not to play for you, not to play hockey. And he's like, I'll sign up for that every day of the week. But yeah, that Joe from the Bridge has it up here. That's a
lot of money. Wow, and then it goes on for. It's like winning the lottery. That's basically every year for the next 8 years.
That's Tatman money. Yes, guy, no guy money.
If you paid me that kind of money to exit, I'd go right through the wall. I wouldn't even use the door.
You would be. It would be vinyl.
I might actually live up to the.
You would be in
image,
your underpants in the basement. And you know what? I don't know. Joe from the Bridge. I sent this earlier. There was a tweet. He's going to put it up. I want to read it because I brought it up on the show yesterday. And a viewer verified that you did.
Oh yeah,
say to
look, I could say anything on Twitter.
I know, but
I never said that on the air.
Joe from the Bridge, can you post that tweet? I think we have it. Somebody sent in and said, I can verify. I was listening where the Tatman told O-Dog that he was going to go home and be in his underpants and dance around.
Read the rest of it, though. Read the rest of it.
I can confirm, O-Dog.
So wait a minute. I'm quoted there saying I was joking or half serious. Now, if you know the Tatman, there's no division. I'm either joking or I'm serious. I'm never half serious.
Okay, so for people that are driving, I can 100% confirm O-Dog saying Tatti talked about listening to vinyl in his underwear.
No.
It was during a Leafs pregame show during the Burke era. No. Tatti was half joking, half serious when he said it.
How does he know what I was doing?
But it was definitely discussed.
No. Disagree. No. I hate to argue with listeners and viewers. That's a no guy.
No guy.
Yeah, there it is. It's no guy. It's a no guy.
I don't know. When we brought it up and to have a listener with that recall go, you know what? I remember that conversation.
But you know what? The listener casually deleted the reference to the basement because I've stated many times I do not have a basement. So there you go.
I think that's adding in just for dramatics. That's the thing. It could have been your living room.
Oh, so wait a minute. So he's adding to what I said.
But okay, basement. But that might even be. It would be better if you had a basement as opposed to in your living room where there's a great, a bay window or something.
Kind of creepy.
Curtains wide open.
The spotlights. The living room is a little more subtle.
Wait till it gets a little dark outside so all the neighbors can see what's going on.
But the basement is just like Creepsville. I mean, that's just, dude, what are you doing down there?
Yeah, and if it's an 8-foot basement, it's a little bit grittier, a little darker and stuff. You don't want that. That's Buffalo.
And I don't know why we segued into that. There's plenty of time to go down that road. So we've got the one buyout already. And I guess we'll just circle back to the Matt Murray situation with the Leafs. I guess if you look at that, and they'd have to carry that for a couple of years. But it makes some sense, doesn't it? Instead of trading that for and coughing up a draft pick to get him out?
What you've done in past years is obviously the Patrick Marleau situation, Peter Mrazek. You're packaging draft picks
with salary
to take that away. This buyout isn't egregious. I believe year one of Matt Murray's buyout is like $672,000. So it's not even minimum wage in the league right now. The second year is $2 million, and I do believe that Ottawa eats some money as well.
Yeah.
But if you choose to move away from Matt Murray, which you probably are going to just based on, you've got a guy who wasn't available to you at the most critical times. It's unfortunate. So you're going to get him off the books. You still have to figure out what you're going to do with Samsonov. I do believe the only guy who's going to be a constant is Joseph Wall, and I don't know if you watch him a lot in the playoffs, but I like the kid. I think he's going to be a good goalie.
Yeah, I thought he played really well for them. I thought he was big in the net. I thought he was calm, and I even like his demeanor when he's speaking with the media. He just comes across as someone who's very reassured, and as a goalie, I don't know, just that gives me a lot of confidence. Being like, okay, this guy's back there. He's going to look after us. We're going to make some mistakes, but I just really felt like he was mature beyond his years or perhaps beyond his experience to this point.
Yeah, I thought he got it, and he played well in a really tough circumstance. Like the expectation, they make it through Tampa. All of a sudden, you're with Florida. Everyone thought that they could get past Florida. Like there was a lot of pressure on that kid, and I thought he handled it very, very well. I wouldn't lay any of the losses at his feet. And Joe from the Bridge putting up the buyout there. So Ottawa's going to eat a little bit of it, $200,000 in that first year and $660 in the second year. and the Leafs $2 million. So think about it. If the cap goes up, they're already working with $2 million off the books because of Matt Murray's buyout, if they choose to do that. Now, Brad Treliving, I don't know what the situation's going to be. Maybe he makes a big trade and says Murray's part of that,
right?
And
that
he saves a buyout, off of his books.
But the Leafs are clean for owing people money in terms of.
I think Phil Kessel comes off the books now. This was his last year.
Yeah, so they're clean that way.
Three-time Cup champion.
Yes,
and he made sure to remind everybody. Which was beautiful. I loved it.
I love it. You love Phil. Like,
oh, yeah.
He's he was a likable guy. And when you look back on it now with the team that they have now and the star power, and you look back at Phil Kessel and that era, with Dion and him, like, I think they were great players. It's just they didn't have the supporting cast, and maybe they were miscast as well.
They had nothing to work
Hey,
with.
when you say nothing, what do you mean, Tatti?
I saw your stats.
Thought it that
Yeah,
great defensive
I know this
guy.
is my first time co-hosting OverDrive, but come on. I used to be a friend of the show here.
A big friend of the show, but you're on fire already. We're 15 minutes in, taking a shot
I'm
at
talking
the
about
co-host.
goal scoring. I mean, you were sound defensively, but there was no offense in that team.
Wow. And Phil was sure to let guys know, too. He'd fly down the right wing, and he'd ring one off the post, one of those little snappers he have.
Yeah.
It would be like 5 minutes into the game. He'd come back to the bench and he'd be like, well, boys, I just don't have it tonight. One of you other guys is going to have to score. We're like, Phil, you got 25 this year, okay? Yeah. And we need you. We're 5 minutes into the game. But he was a character.
Yeah.
I got a lot of respect for him.
I think a lot of, very well liked where he went. Obviously was really well liked here as well. In the room, the guys, everyone you talked to, you played with him, like a guy that was really affable and wasn't shy to be, make fun of himself, have fun with it. It's unfortunate. I wouldn't say the way it ended. It's just that era didn't get to the next level. And
that's where they were is tough on hockey players because you're going to go through a lot of them.
Yeah.
And people are going to wear things that they shouldn't wear, but that's just the nature of it.
It is, especially in this market. Very passionate, very educated fan base, but they wanted you guys to succeed. It just wasn't there. And a guy like Dion, who I'm sure you had a good relationship with.
I love Dion.
Yeah, like everyone.
He got a bad rap in the media, which was unfortunate because, look, being the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're obviously going to be front and center, take a lot of flack. But I thought he handled himself really well for considering how difficult those years were.
Yeah, they were.
Well, look, he had to come out and face the music every game, and he did.
And he did. And he didn't shy away.
No, he didn't. There was one night he did, and he admittedly made a mistake. It was against St. Louis, and I think he was a -3. It was a rough night. The Blues came in here and had a pretty good night, and he didn't speak to the media afterwards. And then the next day, there was a big stink made about it, and he came on every show and just said, "Hey, I need to be better." And I was very, very upset and very frustrated. I felt like I wouldn't have said the right things in the media last night. I just needed a break, and. You
can respect that.
I respected it a ton.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know how you guys do that. I mean, if somebody asked me what I said 10 minutes after this show, I hit the delete button. I don't know what I said.
Well, as players, you do that.
I don't know how you do it.
That's the
game
thing.
after game.
I don't know how you felt, but once the game was over, it was over. You could relive it in your head if you had an off night. Like maybe that night before you go to bed, you're like, God, I wish I was better or whatever. But a lot of times, great players, and this is where I struggle with in my career, great players had amnesia. Like if the game was over, it's like done. Lost 10-1, who cares? See you on Thursday if you lost on a Tuesday. They were fine to reset. I was a guy in between starts where if I didn't start for 10 days or 14 days, I had to live with that. That was a little bit harder.
Well, that's my argument too, because I was a guy who was a lot of times fighting for his job in the lineup. And so if there was a bad night, sometimes to my downfall, I'd take that home with me.
Yeah.
Because then I was nervous about coming to the rink the next day. Where's my number going to be on the lineup? Right. Am I going to be outside the lineup? I'm not playing next game. Now I'm in a red jersey at practice, whatever it may be. That was tough. Yeah. I understand. The star players, look, you have an off night, sure, you come back.
So just to be clear, those games I was talking about where they were offensively challenged, you didn't play.
Yeah, that's right. I was
exactly.
I was having popcorn upstairs.
All good.
The Frankie C spot in the press box.
Yeah.
It's okay. We got a long show, Tatter. I'll get back.
I know you will. It's okay. I'm waiting for you too.
Well, he's mad because I brought that tweet up. And
that's right.
10 minutes into the show.
Yeah. Well, you submarined me. You sewered me, man.
I asked Rod. I sent it to him earlier. I'm like, make sure Joe from the Bridge has that one because we're going to address it early on.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, no problem.
I see what you did there. So one more little topic topic before we hit to the first break and bring in MJ. So the Leafs are looking for, they've stated that, they're looking for a replacement for Carberry.
Yeah.
And what do you think that means?
It wouldn't surprise me if it was a veteran coach. And keep in mind, everything that Brad Treliving has gotten since he's come to the organization has been given to him. So
right.
he's
inherited it.
Right. So Sheldon Keefe, he's trying to develop a relationship, and right through the lineup, people in the front office, assistant general managers, he's made one move so far, and that is Shane Doan, somebody that he worked with in Arizona, has a relationship with. Knows Brandon Pridham from dealing with cap stuff throughout the league when he was with Arizona as an AGM. So if he brings in an assistant coach, an associate coach, whatever you want to name it, that'll be his first hire in that coaching realm. And it'll probably be somebody that he likes or covets. And then that's kind of his first, stamp on that coaching staff. Now, Sheldon is going to have to okay it too. He doesn't just go, here, this is your guy.
But can he say no?
I don't know. I don't know that dynamic. I would imagine that there has to be, if you're trying to develop a relationship with the head coach, I don't think you want to force feed like somebody in there and go,
especially an associate. Going,
yeah.
Well, if you're on the chopping block, here's the guy who's taking your job. He's moving into your office.
Yeah, here's eventually your replacement.
Right.
But the guy's on an expiring contract. I mean, that's a little tight, isn't it?
It is, but I'm, in reading some of the insiders and what they're saying is that maybe there is a potential extension in place to not make him, what is that called, where you're
lame duck.
A lame duck coach.
Yeah.
And that's fair. But you know what it's like in this organization, they have money. So even if you extend him, it doesn't mean that
that's almost courtesy.
I wish that was a thing for fourth liners. Don't want to be a lame duck fourth liner. Just give him an extension, another year. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Give him another one.
Never mind. Like I never wanted to be a lame duck. Like I'll take a 3-year deal or whatever. And if you have to trade me, fine. But ultimately, there are some guys who bet on themselves. And Sheldon is a good coach. If you take a look at their success in the regular season the last couple of years, like that's the one thing I've said all along, is I don't believe that Brad Treliving's worried about the success of the regular season of this group. It's getting it over the hump. So he has the luxury of some time to go, we can start the season. Now he's got to put some work in here. He's got 10 unrestricted free agents. You got Willie coming up. You got Austin coming up. And you got to deal with those situations. But, I'm trying to, from an outside perspective, I want to give Brad Treliving a lot of time to try and sort this out, because it's hard to just kind of hit the ground running and go, here's a staff of 110 people, here's all these things. He's got to get to know these people and figure out who he trusts and who he wants to keep around and who he wants to move away from.
But that almost screams of here's a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
To the head coach right away, just so he can do all that.
To calm the masses, here's a 1-year extension, and then, hey, let's sit back and see if we can go at this as a group. And if I don't like something along the way, you got a 1-year severance.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, he's looked after.
Well, I think it's also human nature to sit back and want to point at one thing and have that one thing solve a whole bunch of problems. And I don't think that that's reality. And so to your point, it's going to take time to evaluate all the different things that may need to be done in order to get the team over that next time.
Exactly. And that's going to be a work in progress. But it will start with some of the players that he wants to maybe shape around this core. If he decides to keep all of those guys, they say the core 4, he's trying to get away from it, but you got Riley in there. That's a 5-pack. And then, who else would you call in that, the core? I guess it's the 4 and then Morgan Riley, who's on term. Yeah. So there's 5 really.
Yep.
So maybe, and that's the thing that everyone's talking about, is that defensive core. Are you going to do something with that to beef it up or change the dynamic a little bit? Because as we saw what Vegas did with that.
I was just going to say Vegas.
If you're a copycat league, that's what you do.
It became a problem at the very end for the Leafs, which is extremely odd, but that's what happens. We'll come back. Mike Johnson will join us. This is OverDrive, listening on TSN 1050 and watching the whole day on TSN 2. OverDrive, mail-in on Friday. Jim Tatti subbing for Hazy B and Peter Holland subbing for O-Dog. Noodles in his regular spot, and Mike Johnson will be with us very shortly. And when Jimmy T shows up later on in the broadcast with his advice cap, and he's going to talk about Father's Day, there's a serious query that's been thrown his way, and I know Jimmy T can handle that. But in the meantime, Golf Town has everything Dad could want for Father's Day with the biggest and best assortment of brands and products. And here's your chance for a $500 Golf Town gift card for Dad. So here's what you need to do right now. Call 416-870-1050. Be the 5th caller and win. Golf Town has store-wide deals running now until Father's Day with fresh deals dropping every week, including buy one, get one 50% off apparel. And head down to golftown.ca. Check out all the Father's Day deals. That's a must-do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You love the Golf Town. Are you there all the time or no?
I love Golf Town. You know what? I also love Canadian Tire. I'm turning into a dad now. I got a young daughter at home. I go into Canadian Tire and I can just walk around that store for 2 hours.
Just loiter.
Loiter is a perfect word.
But see, I always feel like my buddies who go to Golf Town, they go there and they'll spend hours there.
Sure.
It's like a kid in a candy store, and they're trying out stuff. They're in the simulator. They're doing all these things. Like, I don't know.
You go into the simulator and hit a bunch of drivers you have no interest in buying, but you're just in there smashing balls.
Just try them out. That's all you need.
Try them out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You don't try, you don't buy, right? So $500 Golf Town gift card turns into a $2,000 bill because you want more. Let's bring in Mike Johnson now. MJ, how are you today, sir?
What's going on, boys? I am doing very well. Listen, the difference between Canadian Tire and Golf Town is that you can go to Golf Town and you have a good time for an hour trying a whole bunch of stuff, but you don't necessarily walk out with new clubs because you have clubs. I can't go into Canadian Tire and not buy something. I want to buy paper towels. I walk out with a patio set. Like, I always end up with something I'm not intending to
Power
buy.
tools.
So true.
That's the
power tool,
Yeah, you're rolling out a barbecue.
That's the Costco curse, too. You go into Costco for chicken breast, you walk out with a kayak and a big screen TV.
The problem with Costco is you want a chicken breast. There's 400 of them in a packet.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have a freezer.
You need an industrial-sized freezer.
Okay, I'm going to need that freezer. I just bought too much food.
Yeah. Exactly.
Speaking of overexpending, or I guess we could do that with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Your thoughts on that buyout?
So, I mean, I think this is probably a wise decision, an expensive one. It's going to cost about $20 million, but it's unwinding a really bad decision that was called a bad decision in the moment. When they traded for Oliver Ekman-Larsson in that contract, they traded away players who were underperforming but only had 1 year left on their deal. So Roussel and Beagle, and they tried to get out from under those contracts, but they did so by bringing in a worse contract that was longer. They should have just eaten the Roussel and Beagle contract for 1 more year and be done with it instead of bringing in Garland and Ekman-Larsson, carrying that burden forward, and now they have to pay him out for the next 8 years, $20 million. I get why they're doing it. At some point, Vancouver has to change the look of their defense. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson at one point was a premier offensive defense in this league, but the foot speed has gone away from him. I think he's dealt with some injuries, and he just hasn't been the same kind of player. Maybe in a insulated system where he's got a ton of support and system support around him, he could still be a good NHL player. But in Vancouver, they don't have that. They're asking him to be a lead guy. He's not that anymore. So I understand why they're doing it, but it didn't have to be this way. This is them cleaning up a previous error that was an error when they made it a few years ago.
Johnny, is there any chance, we were joking around off air about friends that we had that got bought out and say, well, I'd love to have that buyout, that problem. I mean, OEL wakes up today and they're paying him $20 million to go away. Is there any chance that he signs, a Ryan Suter deal before, like maybe just a $1 million or $2 million deal, and he adds value to a team? Like I say, at 31, you mentioned injuries, foot speed, all of that. But is there any chance that he, extends his career without a giant contract and a team can place him in a better situation to have success?
Absolutely. He's not worthy of playing in the NHL. He's just not worthy of $7 million a year.
Right.
So if you get him for under $2 million with a good team around him, so he's got to have a good team around him. He's not great at getting the puck back. He's great at what happens once he has it. And so if you are one of those teams, a strong system team, if you are a team like a Vegas who doesn't need him, but if you're a team like Boston who might have some changes, like a team like that, he could help you. And he could play 4 more years and make $2 million a year that entire time. And his existence would be so much more peaceful, because when you make $2 million, what you do or don't do is not item number 1, 2, 3, or 5 on the discussion list amongst the media or even the coaches, because they're not expecting that much from you. You're not one of the leaders on the team. But he's not done with the NHL unless he wants to be. He's certainly good enough to find another contract, way less money, way less term, and I anticipate he probably will find that.
Any teams that jump immediately to your mind, MJ, in terms of someone who would probably be interested in an OEL at a $2 million or a $1 million cap? I mean, I assume the interest would be pretty widespread, but any teams sort of just immediately pop out to you?
I'm trying to think of,
I got one for you. Do you want to start a rumor?
Well, if Carolina trades Brett Pesce, Carolina has got a lot of support in and around their team. They love value contracts. So, does he work there? Could Florida, who may pass on Mark Stahl and Radko Gudas, could he slide in there as a fourth or fifth guy and add some value? I mean, those kind of teams might be there, but I don't know, Noodles, where's he going? You tell me.
Well, Brad Treliving has a history with him, so does Shane Doan.
That didn't take long.
Do it.
I'm not going to radio us.
It's already
We're
done.
going to radio us. But I mean, I'm thinking there, if it's a value, if this guy goes, listen, I made a boatload of money and I'll take a Mark Giordano contract, but I'm only 31. Maybe there's some value there. I don't know. Again, if Brad Treliving decides to reshape his defensive core, you might have to go bargain looking if you're going to get a high-end guy on the top-end pair type of thing.
Absolutely. But I thought they were already trading for Erik Karlsson. Didn't we already decide that?
You're right. We got it all.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, does that open up a spot in San Jose then?
Well, or maybe they reunite like the defensive pair from the 2014 Olympics, a lefty-righty with Ekman-Larsson and Erik Karlsson. Maybe bring them all in. But I will say this, and we'll talk about the Leafs, and I don't know if there's a really good fit for him there, but to me, though, and I do anticipate, we talked a lot about, sort of restructuring some of the defense. But in a big picture sense, the Leafs defense and defensive game and goaltending was not their problem this year.
Right.
It hasn't been their problems in the last few playoffs. What has let Toronto down when it matters most is their inability to score goals. We talk about the big four, and yeah, those guys can produce in the playoffs. And to me, if I'm Treliving, if I have to shuffle a deck, yes, I understand you might want a bit more size and different elements in defense core. I want more offense. What is this team supposed to be? Are they supposed to be the big four and then everyone else just, kills clock until the big four get back out there? Or are they an offensive team that tries to outscore teams and attack with, multiple 3 lines, not just 2? To me, it's not talked about enough that the Leafs have gotten further. Everyone talks about goaltending and defense. The Leafs have gotten further and further away from being an offensive team. In the last few years, they've leaned into this defense and this size, and it hasn't really helped them. And it's been the offense that has let them down in the playoffs, not the defense, not the goaltending. They need to spend more time and money and thought on the offense and not just focus on the defense. They can think that's going to cure everything that ails them.
So if you're looking at some of those unrestricted free agents from the Leafs that Brad Treliving has to deal with, is there anybody that you would circle and say that you really like him to bring back?
Well, I mean, it's all term and
reasonable.
And
within reason.
So, I still think you can do worse than Michael Bunting. I get to think there's a better. Look at Barbashev's numbers the last 2 years. Look at Michael Bunting's. Bunting's are better. I understand Bunting played a bigger role as better players, but I understand Bunting's penalty stuff probably got away from him and sort of distracted from his value. But if you get a good deal on him, a guy who wants to play in Toronto, stay in Toronto, there's not a lot of high-end forwards available. I think Barbashev's going to get $5 or $6 million, which I would not pay him, and the Leafs certainly are not going to pay him. If you get Bunting at 4 for 4 years or 5 years, that seems more reasonable to me. I like David Kampf. He's got to be the 4th-line center, not the 3rd-line center.
Right.
So they need another 3rd-line centerman, which means, do we talk Ryan O'Reilly? He, again, might be really expensive, but I would like O'Reilly. I could bring back Bunting, but I want scoring. I want scoring options throughout the lineup, not just checking options.
You don't think Barbashev, you wouldn't pay him the money you think, what would you say, $5 or $6 million? I mean, he just had such an unbelievable impact.
Awesome, yeah.
In the postseason. It's I don't know. I just feel like he's really earned his keep playing the role that he does, and I just thought he was extremely effective and certainly justifies a nice pay increase. I mean, I guess you agree, just maybe not at that level.
Yeah, I guess that's where we're splitting hairs. I would like him on my team.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Where there's a finite cap, and a guy who got a couple of years who had 26 goals. That's really good. 60 points. This year he had 16 goals. 20, what do they have, 45 points. He was awesome in the playoffs, no question. But he played with Marchessault and he played with Eichel, the leading scorer. Now, he's part of why they're the 1-2 in scoring, but they played with leading scorers, and he got a lot done there. If you expect 30 goals and 65 points or something close to that and pay a guy $6 million, which is kind of the going rate for that sort of production right now, I don't think he gives you that over the life of that contract. He will settle into a 15-goal, 30-point guy, physical, He's not great defensively. Really, he's not. He played with a very good defensive team, so you didn't notice him being not great defensively, but he's not. I like him. I'm not giving him $30 million. I think I can allocate that money elsewhere more effectively. I'm happy for him because he's going to get it. He absolutely is going to get it.
Right.
But for Toronto, who's really tight, we haven't even talked about what Austin's or Willie's extensions might look like if they get them. They might be even tighter in 2 years. So, I don't think... I would rather have Michael Bunting at $4 million than Barbashev at $6 million on the same 4-year term.
Do you think I agree with you. I really do. I think that, Barbashev is an effective guy. He's a bigger body, hits harder than Bunting.
Heavy.
He's a heavy player. He reminds me more of like Timo Meier, but doesn't score as much, like a bigger physical body on the wing there. But I was thinking about this. Do you think you brought up the extensions? Do you think that the Hischier contract affects Nylander's?
Not in Nylander's mind, I tell you that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about fair market value. Like just that, Hischier has had 72 points the last couple years. I think he was a 30 goal guy. Nylander got to 40 his first time, 80+ point guy. And Hischier's at 7.8 and signs an 8-year deal at 24 years old. Would he be in the same marketplace, or is it, Nylander, is he that much better of a player
than Nico Hischier?
Yes.
No. I mean, Nico Hischier is really, really good. He's an excellent defensive player.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking Jesper Bratt. Sorry about that. Yes, Jesper Bratt's extension. Sorry.
Yeah. So Jesper Bratt he's a very good player, analytical darling, great underlying numbers. You talk about the points he's put up. I think Willie is a better player there, but at least it provides some parameters. Maybe that's the floor. On the low end, you're 7.8 to 8.8. You know what I mean? Whatever that range is. How many millions are you better than Jesper Bratt? I think he's better. You also remember William Nylander, there were moments he didn't get to play on the first power play this year. He had his 80-something points. He could have pushed higher than that if he were to get maybe even more quality ice time. For a guy as good as he is, he doesn't always get used in every offensive situation. He's going to want something that starts with a 9, I would believe.
Yeah.
And then that's where it gets troublesome. Listen, if you're a 40-goal guy and you get 85 points, that's a $9 million plus player, especially when these guys in their mind are like, I'm a $9 million player 3 years from now on a $95 million cap. It's not 82 anymore.
Right.
It's going to go 83 next year. It's going to go 88. It's going to go 93. It's going to go 97. That's where it's going to go in the next 4 years based on the revenues that are happening. So he doesn't, when you make 7.8 on a $96 million salary cap, that doesn't feel quite appropriate value to the high-end players. That's what they're saying. So Willie's, somehow to me, Willie's negotiation is almost more faster than Austin, because Austin, he's going to be the highest paid player in the NHL by some margin. He'll go to bump on whatever Nathan McKinnon got. But William Nylander, you'll have people say he's worth $7 million, and you'll have people say he's worth $10 million. Seems like there's a $3-4 million range for him. And I would imagine that William Nylander thinks he's at the high end of that range for sure.
Yeah, well, it's just fair. But yeah, you're right. I misspoke. It was Bratt, right? That's why I jammed you up with Hischier, because it was Bratt who signed the extension.
What are you talking about?
No,
Hischier's in the middle of a deal.
No, honestly, that's my fault. But Bratt signs that extension, and I agree. I think Nylander's a better player, but that's to your point, how much better. And that's why I think it's fascinating moving forward as to where he's going to fall and how valuable he is to this organization. That's where, I think these negotiations, I don't know if they could get contentious or not.
I 100% expect them to get sticky. William Nylander had to miss time while negotiating. He wasn't holding out. He was negotiating a new contract last time because he believes he's worth whatever. Now, for all the kicking and screaming about how terrible that contract was, guess what? it was probably the best return of any of them. I mean, he was great value
By
for
the
the
end.
$7 million.
Yeah. By the end.
Well, after the second year, the last 3 years, he was outperforming that contract by a lot. So, you know, the whole problem for Toronto is that it's not this year upcoming where these guys have 1 year left in their deal. It's the following year.
Right.
It's the 24-25 season, which is Tavares' last year. And so, yes, the cap's going to jump, but only to like 87. And you're going to have those guys on their new deals and Tavares on the last year of his deal. Like, once Tavares' deal expires, there's going to be lots of flexibility at the cap at 90, no Tavares. There's going to be all kinds. But it's just that year, not even next year because they have deals, but the year after, that's the one that the Leafs, you know, they can't make it all fit 2 years from now, and that's where their consideration is got to lie.
MJ, thanks for stopping by. Store closes at 9.
I'll be in there for hours. All right, boys, have a good weekend. Happy Father's Day to all of you guys, and have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. Mike Johnson, TSN Hockey analyst. You know, really, what we're talking about is who's playing on the left side of the top two lines. We'll get into that at the top of the hour.
Oh.
Coming up next, we'll have Leo Rautins stop by. And, you know, you want to talk about making money. Michael Jordan just cashed in big time as he sold the Hornets today for a lot of money. Yikes.
Tatman money.
Yeah, that's right. Tatman money. This is OverDrive on TSN 1050 and TSN 2. Wow, let's get down to business. OverDrive. Jim Tatti subbing for Hazy B, and Peter Holland in for O-Dog. Jamie McLennan, a.k.a. Noodles, is here as well. Getting down to business means the Charlotte Hornets are sold today for $3 billion. They entered the league in 04-05 for $300 million. MJ bought them for $275 at a bargain sale, and now it's $3 billion. Leo Rautins, our NBA insider, is with us now. Leo, that's a nice turnover, isn't it? Where's Leo?
Leo's not here.
No, he's not. I think the money stunned him.
Well, it is a good turnover. Like, think about that, though. I mean, Michael Jordan is so smart, and obviously he's got great advisors. But you get involved in these teams now, and you're seeing the valuation of all these teams go up. And we were talking off air about the Ottawa Senators. You know, the Ottawa Senators have continued to grow, and they're going to get a
from
new
$90
rink.
million.
Yeah, they're going to get a new rink. It's a land play. Like, you take a look at all of that, and you know, Andlauer seems like a great investor and a great boss, we'll call it. So
yeah, absolutely.
It seems like the equity value of these sport franchises is going exponential, and it makes you wonder why these players are flipping the bill on the escrow.
Leo's back with us. Leo, did we stun you with those numbers?
You know what? I didn't hear anything. I just got disconnected, so I'm not stunned at all.
For $3 billion for the Hornets, I mean that's quite a price, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it seems like everything is going in that direction, right? Even bad teams are in high demand.
I love it. I mean, to me, that's something. When you look at Michael Jordan throughout his career, obviously he's known as the greatest, or arguably the greatest, depending on where you view him with the LeBron debate. But when you have guys that have that type of generational wealth, you've come across these players, do you talk to them? Are they all about, having the right financial advisors? Is it a team situation around? I mean, in your time being around these guys, do they have the right people that help advise with their business investments?
I think the ones that are most successful definitely do. I mean, Michael Jordan, when he came into the NBA, he had David Falk, and he was, the things that he did. Even look at his sneaker deal with Nike. I mean, he had his own brand. He had things that nobody else had, and all of that was established through his agent and his financial people. So, Michael Jordan, the structure and the groundwork for his future success was laid very early on. Because if you remember, his first contract, I think he made, around $500,000. So, a year. So, he's made all great decisions, and now he's certainly enjoying the benefits.
These guys are just ultra competitive. They want to win no matter what they're doing, and they want to have the best people around them because that's who they were as athletes, and should really be commended for that. In a sort of a U-turn, Ja Morant gets 25 games, and the PA is sort of arguing that. What do you think?
I actually thought it was going to be more than that. So, if I was him, I would take it. If I'm the NBA Players Association, obviously they have to, show support for players. But at the same time, the league really is obviously concerned about their image, young people. model themselves after these guys. And, his behavior. And I think it's the fact that it wasn't just one time. Adam Silver sat down and Ja Morant convinced him that this was a one-off. It's over. I'm done. It's not going to happen again. And it happened again. And, I think there's a lot more to this young man's life that has to be really looked at. I'm sure the NBA has talked to him. But, I know people around Memphis. And, my concern is his father. His father's hanging out with him. His father's doing, like one of the boys and living the NBA life. And that's not what your dad's supposed to do. Your dad's not there to live the NBA life. Your dad's supposed to grab you by the shirt and say, dude, what are you doing? You want to throw this all away? For what? Flashing a gun? You're not a thug. This is not your life. You got the world by the short hairs and you're acting like this. So that's what a father needs to be doing in that situation. So between his father and other people he surrounds himself with, that's been the problem. So hopefully, he's going to learn from this and the suspension because, he's a tremendous talent. He's a tremendous talent. And you would just hate to see it all go to waste over something like this.
Do you think the Grizzlies can trust him moving forward, though, with what you just laid out as far as the people he surrounds himself with and what you said about his father being involved in the situation as well? Do you think moving forward, what do you think the Grizzlies, their level of trust is with him?
Well, that's a great question. I think that there's going to be a lot of, pieces involved in this. Adam Silver himself said that, there's going to have to be a lot of things that are going to have to happen along the way, along with the suspension. And I'm sure the Memphis Grizzlies, whether it's counseling, whether it's, who knows? I mean, there's got to be more to it as far as dealing with him on this level. And I'm sure, and again, we're not going to know all the particulars, and nor should we know all the details that are dealt with in private, especially between a relationship with a father and a son. And you don't necessarily want to make that all public, but I'm sure that either the Grizzlies or the NBA, if I know about it, I'm sure they know about it. And I'm sure it's going to be dealt with in some form or fashion.
Leo, thanks very much. Wish we had more time. All the best.
All the best, guys. Thanks.
Leo Rautins, and that was a good question. Sometimes that's a dodge by the person you're questioning, but that was a good question.
I felt it was a good question, and I made it up at the top of my head.
Impressive.
So I had help from behind.
As
an aside, his suspension is going to cost him $7.6 million. Wow. That's a punchy.
I don't want to talk about it.
Punchy number.
I know. I don't look at the numbers.
Tatti money.
All right. Coming up next, Frankie C. to add some levity to the situation. This is OverDrive, watching on TSN 2, listening on TSN 1050.